And welcome to episode 4 of Taking It Next Level on the Crawford Podcasting Network. Tom Crawford, Luke Miller here. We're kind of doing dual capture here with video and obviously audio. And Luke, well, I always like having Luke with me because he's Mr. Technology. He can set all this stuff up. But I thought we'd talk about taking it to the next level by self-scouting, taking it to the next level today.
Yeah, that's right. Taking it the next level to the next level.
Why
right?
not? Why not?
Yeah, that's right. And I mean, I think it's a really important thing to do. You consider this kind of our bye week we were talking about.
Yeah, the bye week. Well, yeah, we're going to have different shows. We're going to have guests, and we're not going to have guests because we want to self-scout. We want to, kind of just do what you and I bring together in our dynamic of sharing ideas. And so, looking for it. Ben Bakken last week was tremendous.
I tell you what, we've been really fortunate because we've had Tracy Ruiz and Ben Bakken, two really great people, really great stuff that they're doing, really engaged with the Greater Lansing community, super smart people. We've been really fortunate. And then I think we've got, just to tease the listeners and the audience right now, we have some really fascinating people coming up, people who aren't necessarily Greater Lansing folks, but great stories, great things going on.
It's about relatability, how people got where they got, how they took it to their next level. And it's not easy stuff. Taking it to the next level. It's not easy stuff. Getting a podcast off the ground. I had some young people reach out to me just recently. Mr. Crawford, how do you get a podcast going? How do you do this? How do you do that? And I think people are intrigued by a great way of basically starting your own broadcast company. Share with other people what's on your mind, all that energy, all that vibrancy that you have inside, let it all out and make it a positive experience.
Well, here's the thing that's, and this is one of the things I'm going to talk about a little later as we self-scout, is that the great thing about the internet and technology is that it democratizes communication.
It does.
Okay?
The barriers are low.
That's right. When you think about the stuff that, how you came up through terrestrial radio and broadcast television. It requires a lot more overhead, a lot more
cost
and production, right? And you know what? We're kind of bootstrapping it here.
That's the key word, bootstrapping.
And realistically, though, there's not, in my mind, there's not a ton of drop off. I think that the quality and the value that we offer in what we're doing is more in what we say in the content and the people that we talk to and have. And I think that far outweighs and surpasses the production values at this point. And I think the internet has built in an expectation in people that speed and quality are probably more important than the actual production value.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, listen, we're smart enough to realize there's a lot of content competition out there. You only have so many minutes. Like in your car, if you're listening to a podcast, or at home, listening on your tablet, your laptop, or on your phone, watching a video that we post on our social media platforms. So we want to make sure it's good and you get something from it. And I always, like when I do my Tom's Take, Luke, I always try to say to myself, from the viewer's perspective, always walk in the viewer's shoes. Is it, should I waste my time listening to this clown every week for a couple minutes? I always want to bring something that they can relate to, that maybe they can apply to their life, their challenges, their opportunities in their lives, and just have fun with it.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And I was thinking about this podcast, this particular episode, talking about how we taking it to the next level, and how we're going to self-scout. And one of the things that I found in listening to the podcast episodes myself, obviously we're part of the conversation.
Right.
But when I listen to the podcast myself, I take notes about it. I think about how we can improve it more. I self-scout myself.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things like I think after every episode I made this comment to you, is that I'm just blown away by your professional polish. When people listen...
Oh, you're making me feel
no, so when people listen to it, and when I listen to it, I think, boy, Tom's got you can tell he's a pro. You can tell he's done this for a long time.
Repetition.
And I love it. And that's right.
If you do something long enough, you can manage to be decent at it.
Right. And I take notes. on that. I'm thinking, okay, here's things that I can improve. And it also got me thinking about something that I don't know if I knew or maybe recognize it as much, but I noticed it within the podcast. And I noticed that I actually do it in real life too, and I'm actually doing it right now, is that oftentimes I will take a long time prefacing something before I actually say that thing.
Never fear the pause.
Right.
It's got, it just sets up just when someone has a pause in there, I admire that, especially when you see somebody doing a presentation, like a formal presentation at a convention or something like that. I mean, they're waiting for the audience to absorb what they said and not get caught up in this dead air. I mean, everybody's paranoid of dead air, which is why people do the because they're trying to, when you say you're trying to fill in a gap because you're fearing this dead air, which is supposedly horrible. No, it's not. I mean, Jim Rome, you can say what you want about Jim Rome, but he's a national sports radio personality for a long, long period of time because of the pause. Right. I mean, he uses pauses and he repeats the same statement for effect, but the pause is his greatest strength.
Yeah, no. I really enjoy Jim Rome, mostly just because I think he's never afraid to take a stance on something.
And that's easier said than done.
And it also...
You're setting yourself up.
Well, but the other thing too is I also think that Jim Rome's, his stances are genuine, where I feel like a lot of other talking heads, I don't believe that they believe what they're saying half the time.
Oh, you just think they're playing to their audience.
I think they're playing to the audience, or they're specifically being provocative in order to get more viewers.
Clickbait.
Yeah.
Basically. That's a good point. So you believe everything what Jim says. So why is it? Is it his tone of his voice, his conviction in his tone of his voice, or what is it?
That's exactly right. Like the tone of his voice, how he's very succinct and very clear in the points that he's making, that they don't sound rehearsed. Whereas I think that you got guys like Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless,
or loud,
Colin Cowherd,
where they use sheer high volume.
Yeah, they use volume. They use volume in place of conviction.
Really interesting. That's because some people think. I mean, Stephen A. Smith made a lot of money doing what he's doing.
Oh yeah, and don't get me wrong. All three of those guys that I mentioned, they're smart guys.
Yeah.
They know. In most cases they know what they're talking about. But just some, a lot of times, I would even say like 50-50. I don't really believe that they believe the thing that they're saying.
Well, and that quality that you're talking about is a sign of leadership.
Yeah.
I mean, because somebody who says something, like a coach or a teacher says something that doesn't have conviction, young people are smart enough to figure that out. He's just full of smoke.
For sure.
He didn't mean that.
Yeah. For sure.
So anyway, but I mean, hey, so we're self-scouting today, and also you're gonna, hey, visuals. That's another good thing when you're trying to do when you're having a presentation of some sort or an episode. Whether this is for the visual part of CPN, the Crawford Podcasting Network, which Taking It Next Level is a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing that's going to be really cool is that, so everybody who's listening, everybody who's watching, one of the things that we've talked about a lot is incorporating more video with the podcast, because that's a lot easier form of media to catch without having to take another action, especially on social media. You guys know it at home. You don't. All you have to do is roll over the video, no matter what platform you're on, and it'll autoplay. But you know that you want to get more invested and more committed to the podcast, so you'll subscribe to it, and it'll automatically download to your phones and through the apps that you use to listen to those podcasts. So hey, good news is, Tom, I don't know if I told you this yet. Good news is we're on more podcast platforms now. I just got the news, I think last night. So we're now on Google Podcasts.
All right.
We're on Breaker. We're on Radio Free.
Okay.
Radio Plus.
Radio Plus.
Radio
I'm
Plus.
familiar with Radio Plus.
Yep, Radio Plus. of course, we're on Spotify and we're on Anchor, and we should hear pretty soon. We should be on Apple Podcasts here pretty soon.
Okay, so to the listener out there, what does that mean as far as getting our content?
That means that, all the places that you normally get your podcast.
That's an app that you download.
Yep.
Put it on your phone.
We put it on your phone. All the places where you normally get your podcast content, whether it's Google, whether it's Apple, whether it's Spotify, whether it's Breaker, we're going to be there.
Okay. So when they go to it, so you click on, then how do you find us?
Yep. Search for Taking It Next Level.
Okay, and it'll pop up.
And it should pop up. You'll remember us from our from the CPN logo on the podcast cover art. Taking It Next Level.
Nice. Okay, here's a question. And never ask a question that you don't know the answer to, right?
That's right.
I'm a good lawyer here. How do you have this show driven to say, hey, just, you want to have it so it drives people's phones. What does that mean? Is that an RSS? What does that mean?
So it can be an RSS feed. You're going to subscribe to the podcast. So when you subscribe to the podcast, you get those automatic updates.
So it's a notification.
Yeah.
It pops in your phone and said hey, they just launched a new episode. Is that what that means?
Pretty much, yes. Yep. And so I know through Apple Podcasts, because I subscribe to a lot of other podcasts as well. Mm-hmm. Not just theirs. So through Apple Podcasts, when the new episode gets available, you get the notification, and oftentimes it'll automatically download for you. So.
Okay. So if someone, when we had Ben on, we said same thing with Tracy. We said, okay, you got about 90 seconds to 2 minutes to do your quote unquote elevator speech. Tell us when you meet somebody. Hey Ben, what do you do? Hey Tracy, what do you do? What's your business? Blah blah blah. And so you have that boom 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 right in your head.
Yeah.
So I'm at some Raider Lansing Chamber of Commerce meeting. Hey, Luke Miller, man, I see you got a podcast. I'll take it next level with Tom Crawford. What exactly is that? What is that podcast about?
Well, we talk.
Tom.
Yes. Well, Tom. So Tom Crawford and Luke Miller, we talk with people. We talk about companies and services, and we talk about topics and concepts that are just kind of breaking the mold and doing things a little bit differently from the norm, and doing it in a way that's generated some level of success that just feels different, and that's really the concept of like taking it to the next level. Because you know these people, and you know these companies, and you know these organizations, and you think about them and you say, now that is next level stuff.
Right, next level. Yeah.
Right. That is next level.
That's millennials are.
And that is
you're taking it next level.
Yeah. And that's really the core concept and the genesis of how this came about. It was like just there's people that are doing things differently. They might not have relative success that's on the level of say like a Google, but they have just this kind of the growth pattern in the way that they've distinguished themselves. It's just beyond anything that any average human being can fathom. Like it's just
right. And I think, Luke, you're in agreement with me. When we interview our guests, we're all the two we've had and the one of the future guests. I am always going to ask the question: what would you do if you could have a do-over? I mean, what went wrong? Tell me the things that went wrong that you learned from those things that went wrong, and build on that to the future. Because I think that's what people want to know, of how to bounce back from adversity, how to recognize, I screwed up, learn from that, but then put it behind you. Because a lot of people, when they make a mistake, they let that one mistake turn into two mistakes, like a football team having one bad loss, like in Michigan, it's a hungover from that Wisconsin beatdown, and so much of the funk it turns it into another loss, God forbid, against Rutgers. How does one, like in business? I mean, these are things that I always marvel about people. How can you put that mistake behind and move forward? Easier said than done.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And you had those too.
Absolutely. I think for me, and as it relates to our thing here, I was thinking, I would love to be able to get through season 1 of Taking It Next Level with the guests that we have, and probably end up, maybe season 2, maybe not season 2, but season 3 or season 4, revisit all, if not half or all of those guests, again, because I think those conversations, you need an update, and because I think we could get more information from them because they have so much insight to share that we didn't even touch on.
Well, with Ben, I mean, Luke, you and I have this goal of trying to be somewhere in our podcast length at 25 to 30 or something like that.
Yeah.
I looked down at the meter there. I thought it would be like 22 minutes, and with Ben, it was like 40.
Right.
And it's just like, which is a great sign when you're doing a podcast. If it goes fast, that's a good indicator it's going good.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that conversation felt like it was maybe 15 minutes. I mean, even with Tracy, we actually had a lot more content.
We left a lot on the production room table. I mean, you know what I mean? It just, there wasn't. I mean, I didn't even get to some of the topics, and that's why you want to bring those folks back who have so much to share and are willing to share.
Yeah,
that's another commonality that I see with successful people. Willingness to share.
So the other thing that we were talking about a little bit, and I've talked a lot about like where I've kind of self-scouted and seen some of the things that we'd like to improve. What are some of the stuff that you're
well, what as far as my self-scouting?
Well, no, not just yourself, but I mean, because one of the things that we were talking about was now that we're on more platforms, but just this general idea of like how we allocate a little bit more resource and time to self-promoting.
Yeah. See, because I don't know. I mean, I always have been reluctant, and this is probably a weakness more than a strength. It's definitely a weakness. Is resistancy to self-promote.
You think so?
I think I do. I mean, recently in the last year, people think, "Oh my God, you're all over social media." It's like, and the reason people are surprised by that because that's unlike me.
Right.
I mean, I've participated in a lot of broadcast platforms and TV and radio, and that's just being out there. But I've never, since doing this Crawford podcasting network, I've realized you've got to promote yourself.
Yeah.
No one else is going to do it, and there's a lot of competition out there. So I'm out there sharing stuff like that, and so that's been an adjustment for me. But I'm getting more and more comfortable with it. Make sure you check out, including on my own Facebook page. At Tom's Take, having my own Tom Crawford community page, Tom's Take community page, to get people to go there, so those knowing that the content on that is based on that 2 or 3 minute video clip that I do Monday through Friday to motivate, to entertain, infotain I call it, and just have a break in the action for the day.
And I'll tell you what, I think no disrespect to any of your other partners, because I'm definitely in that boat too. But I think of all the things that you do right now, Tom's Take is probably the thing that, that I think is probably the most resonant and is really cool because, as we started off this conversation with, we're still bootstrapping and things like that.
Yeah,
I mean, you going out and just and realistically, like the quality of those Tom's Takes are actually pretty high. I mean,
well, they're all impromptu.
Yeah.
Like I went to the library yesterday because I was trying to get John Bacon to send me this book, Johnny Bacon. And so I said to myself, when I joke about the fact that I don't read books, I don't read books. And I think that is definitely a weakness because you read books and you're one of those book readers that's why you're one of the reasons you're so smart. And I don't read books. And because people that read books, I've never run into a person that reads books that doesn't seem smart to me.
Right.
And so I went down to the old library, which is now part of Lansing Community College, that my mom would take me down there in the bus and I'd check out a book, and how excited I was to go in that library at 8 years old, and how exciting it was. And it's like I'm trying to, just guilt myself and shame myself into starting to read more books.
I think that's really important. Not only because it helps exercise your mind, but also that you start to see different perspectives and different concepts that if you didn't read books, it would pass you by.
Right.
And so it's
how many books do you read a year?
Well, you know what? So you gave me a lot of credit, but I've been actually really bad the past couple of years.
Them up here. Huh?
Yeah,
this is a sucker punch.
Yeah, you caught me up. So normally,
I mean, in your adult life,
yeah. Normally, like I try to read at least a half a dozen books a year. Now I usually take that time because I go like, this is the kind of the rule that I give myself, is like, it's one for me, for pleasure, and one for like just ultimate learning. Okay.
Wow, that's discipline.
Yeah, so one for me, one for learning. You know.
Okay.
So read like a book for pleasure, and then a book for improving.
I wonder what Luke Miller averages 6 books a year, or right now. Are you about 6 books a year?
Yeah, I'm more about 2 right now.
Okay, 2. So, okay, I wonder what the average adult book readership is. How many books a year?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure, but and my guess.
And I'm not talking about looking at screens and looking at excerpts on a.
Right.
Well, I'm talking about sitting down and reading words that are not illuminated.
Well, I will. I'm going to give a lifeline to those people who read ebooks, because they are books. You can read them on your tablet, and on your tablet, your Kindle, your iPhone.
Okay. Shame on me. But I mean, but at least they're not. In other words, when I read the newspaper. Yeah, going through the internet and clicking on this article, clicking on that. That's not reading.
Yeah. So I'll tell you right now, like my.
That's not being a reader.
Well, right now my reading list is probably 2 columns deep right now. But there's books that I think are really important to read. There's books that for me, I think I'm really interested in reading. Like Malcolm Gladwell's new book just came out. It's called How to Talk to Strangers. And so I want to read that book.
How'd you find out about that book?
Another podcast. So Malcolm Gladwell, actually, so he's a pretty famous business writer. It's more of a sociological writer, I'll call him, because one of his most famous books is called The Tipping Point. It's talking about the phenomenon of how things kind of get to the precipice of popularity, and then
what was that word you used again?
Precipice.
Precipice. Okay, you got that word from reading books.
that's a
precipice. What does precipice mean?
Well, so basically is
that a fancy word for saying the premise?
The tip, the
whodunit,
the apex, the tip of the mountain. You're getting right to the point of
finding out did the butler kill him or
kind of yes. So you're on the doorstep, if you will.
Okay.
So you're getting right to that point.
Okay.
Where it's gonna happen, right?
I've heard the word precipice. But I'm going to be candid here. That's another thing I do. I'm not being self-deprecating. I'm being honest. I don't know how to define the word precipice.
Well,
until right now.
But you are naturally self-deprecating. I think is one of the best qualities about you, because I think like you are self-deprecating about yourself, but you definitely have a lot.
Well, it's candid. It's not intentional. It's just being real.
Yeah, no, for sure. So,
yeah.
But he really talks about how do things actually build up to the point where they do become mainstream popular, and what does it take in order for those things to kind of as the title suggests, tip over to mainstream popularity and become widely popular and viral, and so it's a really interesting read. I think it's been around for a while, so many people will have heard it, will probably have read it maybe. But if you haven't heard of it, if you haven't read it, I highly encourage you to read it, because it's very interesting. It's very, very interesting in many levels.
Okay, well, I'm gonna challenge myself that I'm gonna read a book before the end of 2019.
Now I'll tell you something.
You heard it here first, probably Johnny Bacon.
So let me ask you: is there anything that you consistently read? Do you read a book, like a favorite book, like over and over? Is that a no? That's all right. That's okay if that's a no.
I can't even remember. I can't even, just ballpark recall the last book I read. How scary is that? Because that's like somebody at a cocktail party. Hey, what's the last book? You read a good book lately? I'm out of here.
So here's what
you guys are too heavy for me.
Here's what I would challenge you to do is just read for joy, read for pleasure to start. Don't challenge yourself in anything else except to read for joy. Pick the topic you want to read. If it's about Michigan football or anything like that.
That usually works.
Yeah, just read. No, seriously, read for joy.
Okay.
Read for joy first,
then you get in. You kind of get in the habit of reading.
It's like exercising time.
But the thing about it is, whenever I see somebody read, like at the beach and they're reading, or in the park, I go, man, they look kind of cool. They look cool reading. Because you know why? Because they look focused and they look chill and they look like nothing bothers me. I'm in this book. It's a cool look.
Right. Yeah. Well,
not that I'm executive director of the Book of the Month Club here, but I'm trying to
watch out, folks. When you see Tom Crawford wandering around town with a book, pretty soon he's going to take a full hipster turn.
It's like in the 60s smoking a cigarette. Do it to look cool.
Well, so the reason why I ask you that is that and I don't, and maybe it's pretentious, maybe it's not, but I never shy away from telling people that even with those times and those years where I'm busy and I don't get to read a lot, I always find time to read one book. And it's the same book every year. I always read The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. And the reason why is that, so most people...
And how long is it? How many pages?
It's not a very long book at all.
But how many hours total?
You know what, you could probably sit down and read that book in half a day. It's not that long. It really isn't. So, and most of the people who hear that, like, they think about The Great Gatsby, F. Scott Fitzgerald, they think about this book and they think about, it's something that I had to read for school,
Okay, it just dawned on me, the last book I read.
Yeah.
This is embarrassing. So I'm going to the Rose Bowl, flying to California for Bo Schembechler's last Rose Bowl game that he lost to USC 17-10. He got jobbed. That was Chris Stapleton got screwed. I mean, he had a fake punt. They called holding on Bobby Powers. I'm still disgusted about it. Anyway, so his book just came out prior to that bowl, and I read that book in flight to California. And I read it by the time I got there. And the guy across the aisle, was another Michigan fan, and I'm not saying we were racing. What page are you on? I mean, it's like, because we noticed we were reading the same book. And so 1989, I think, might have been the last quote-unquote book, cover to cover, that I read. Not that I'm not a reader, and and I read stuff. I read news. I'm a newspaper junkie, especially the old hard copy. Mm-hmm. That's the last book that I read. So I'm going to read one to mark that 30th anniversary of last time I read a book. I'm going to read one before you.
There you go. Yeah.
So, any further thoughts on this episode, 4, September 30th, 2019?
Episode 4. Episode 4. It doesn't feel like we've done 4 already.
Yeah.
It feels great. Though.
Yes.
Real quick, thank you to everybody who've consumed our content, listened, watched videos, watched Tom's takes.
Yeah.
Thank you for everybody for supporting, everybody who was willing to listen, to help, to give feedback, and even more. Hey, if you want to be on here and talk with us,
we'd love it. We'd be open and reach us out. We're both on Facebook, Bob Haley and Bob. If we're not friends, but friend us, and then send us a private message or whatever, and we'll get the dialogue going.
And even better, if you aren't one of those people who wants to put themselves out there, but somebody, everybody knows somebody that this person is so cool.
Oh yeah.
Is that you should talk to these people.
Yeah.
Send them our way.
Yeah.
Give us their contact information. We'll reach out to them because we love talking to new people. We love learning about new people. We love learning in general. I think it would be fantastic.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, hey, once again, we appreciate your listenership, and we'll talk to you a week from today, the following into October. And the leaves will be falling.
That's right. Taking it to the next level. You know what? I have to correct myself because last week I said our own podcast name wrong. Taking it next level. Episode 4. We're looking forward to the next however many episodes. Don't forget, like our podcast on Anchor, on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Radio Plus. Like and subscribe, and make sure you tell everybody else to listen, like, and subscribe.
In the meantime, make it a great day. We'll talk to you next time on Taking It Next Level.